I have yet to meet a person who doesn't know Melanie Martinez. Ever since her career started, people have been talking about her non-stop. Once, she was just a shy teenager performing at a talent show called Voice to have a chance to become a famous musician. And now she's one of the most successful and famous artists in modern time. Her most recent album, Portals, came out in 2023 and is still popular to this day. This album was the first thing that she released after taking a 3-year long break, and it focused on themes like reincarnation and growth and rebirth. You may have seen pictures of Melanie dressed as this weird pink creature and wearing a mask when going on tours. Some people loved this idea, some people hated it, but regardless, everyone was talking about Melanie Martinez. But apart from her unique art, catchy visuals, and good music, she's also widely known for her controversy. And ever since last year, it seems like new discussions about her happen every single day. And it's not surprising why, because over time, the controversy just seems to get more disturbing and gross. And this time, it's no exception. Because recently, people discovered something so gross and terrible about her that it's just impossible to not talk about it. So what did she even do? And why is such a unique and cool artist like Melanie Martinez is being criticized right now? Let's talk about it. Hi! Just a little disclaimer that today's video will discuss topics listed below, and if it's something that affects you negatively and makes you uncomfortable in any sort of way, you can always leave the video and please take care of yourself. Also, as my credentials, I have been a fan of Melanie Martinez for 5 years, and I have been in a fandom for long enough to tell you everything I know. And I stopped supporting her a long time ago. This shirt is literally the only piece of merch that I own from her. I don't know what to do with it. It still has a tag on. Please let me know who wants it, because I don't. First of all, let me tell you a little bit more about Melanie Martinez and who she even is. Melanie Martinez first gained national attention as a contestant of season 3 of The Voice. She gained a lot of supporters and fans from that show. People not only loved her voice, but also her dye-split, Cruella-inspired hair. Outside of music, Melanie Martinez also tried herself in visual arts, lyra, and she also directed a lot of her music videos. She also produced a movie called K-12 where she plays the main character. After The Voice, Melanie released her first ever single that's called Dollhouse and signed with Atlantic Records. And in 2015, she released her first album, Crybaby. The album tells the story of a character named Crybaby because she always cries. It explores many dark and terrible things like childhood trauma, abuse, and all this storytelling is mixed with playful, nurse rhyme-like melodies. And this is where the controversy started. So like I said, the album Crybaby is centered around experiences of a character, Crybaby, who is a child going through adult experiences. Melanie also claims that she associates herself with the character, and because she was bullied when she was a kid and called Crybaby a lot, this is her way of portraying her own experiences. She wrote a song called Soap, which is about being too scared to say too much to your loved one, to spill everything out and then regret your words. She uses a metaphor of washing your mouth with soap to get all those nasty words out, to kind of try and wash out all the things you said. This song had a cover, and it shows Crybaby sitting in a bathtub and eating soap. And as you could probably think, it weirded out a lot of people. Some people say there is nothing wrong with this cover. It literally portrays all the meaning and the lyrics of the song very accurately. Here's Crybaby, she's eating soap, she's in a bathtub, just like the lyrics say. It's a very good visual representation. The lyrics literally go from Crybaby's POV of how she goes, sits in a bathtub, fills everything with water and bubbles, and starts eating soap. And so those people claim that it's literally all about the meaning, and if you see something else weird about this cover, it's your problem. It's literally, there's nothing weird with this cover. But other people, however, had a lot of questions about this cover because they noticed that Crybaby is literally a toddler or looks like one. She is a child character and she does look like a child. It's something about her face, the unnecessary feet right in the front view. Like, maybe Crybaby could have cried with her eyes closed and not open and her eyebrows raised. Also, why do we need to show her feet? That's just no. There's just no way that they didn't draw her like that on purpose. So in conclusion, as you probably could have guessed, people think that this is literally CSAM. CSAM stands for child essay material. And even if Crybaby is not a real child and is just a character, it is still incredibly weird to portray a child character who is meant to be a child in this way. Like, I personally understand that this is literally the lyrics of a song in visual interpretation. The song literally is called Soap, so which is why she eats soap. But please don't tell me that you don't think that making a child's face look like this is not weird. Otherwise, I do not feel safe being in the same room with you. But regardless of people's opinion about this cover, it just does not help that there is way more controversy surrounding Melanie Martinez, in which she also acted very creepy like this. There is literally a history of such incidents and it's not the first time people call her out. So let's go over every single controversy of Melanie Martinez. You know, Melanie Martinez had this concept of Crybaby for a very long time. All her albums show the story of this character from being a kid, going to school, being bullied, falling in love, to death. And when the album Crybaby was released, there was a coloring book that went along with it that showed more insight into Crybaby's life and showed illustrations of some songs in the album. The Soap cover also was in it, by the way. I personally do not own the coloring book, but thankfully I could find some videos on TikTok of people showing what kind of art was in it. The whole coloring book depicts like images of childhood trauma with Crybaby as the center of this trauma, and it has a lot of like blood and knives and very gory elements as well as weird images that we're going to discuss later.
It has not been unknown to me that Melanie Martinez is a creep. The Crybaby coloring book by Melanie Martinez is literally depictions of child sexual abuse material, and nobody is going to tell me otherwise. Over the weekend, I listened to some videos and heard different people's ideas and perspectives about this coloring book. This should not be promoted to anyone. And of course, her fan base is just as toxic, just as problematic, and they victim blame and enable predatory behavior. All of her supporters make endless excuses and reasons behind why this coloring book is appropriate. One of the excuses that gets me the most is that this coloring book isn't even marketed for kids. It's marketed for adults, so what's the big deal? Do you guys think that kids are into child sexual abuse material? Adults are into it. This coloring book shouldn't exist at all, but it being marketed towards adults doesn't make it any better at all. It honestly makes it worse. And then of course we have the classic one that everybody likes to say, you're pointing out creepiness, that makes you the creep. No. Pointing out something that is highly inappropriate and predatory behavior does not make us a predator. It makes us actually want to prevent children from being harmed. One of the creators that posted a video about this specifically without mentioning the coloring book talks a lot about how images are portrayed and that a child in the bathtub is just that. But when you stick soap in its mouth and you put a certain expression, you know what you're doing. When you are an artist, you know what you are portraying. There's some inspiration from somewhere and you are drawing. It doesn't just turn out that way. It doesn't just turn into the child inappropriately posing in a tub with soap in its mouth. That doesn't just happen. You created it. You knew what you were doing and what you were trying to portray. I'm going to give an example of this. We can see here in the Where Hands Go book by Crystalline Diggs that you can easily portray children in a bath without making it creepy.
And so you can see what type of drawings were in that coloring book, and there is also one that people bring up a lot, which is an illustration for a song called Tag Your It, which is about like an ice cream truck man running after a young girl, and the illustration for it is just also questionable. Also, for years in a row, Melanie Martinez have been famous for her dollish, coquette aesthetic. She wore big dresses, to portray this like child crybaby going through all this stuff. But she also used some like actual childish things to go with her concept. Let me explain. She literally used pacifiers and like kids attire and drank out of sippy cups and used nurseries and all that stuff. She portrayed this child crybaby while also performing some like rather sexual activities in a music video. And even though the character Crybaby is going through so much hard stuff as a child, there's like a whole song of her being abused in her own house by her own family. And according to the lore, her mom is an alcoholic and her dad is a cheater, and like all of this bad stuff is happening for her at home. Melanie Martinez herself admitted that she never went through a hard childhood. She actually did have a great childhood, even though she was bullied in school. Again, you don't have to be a victim of those things to support people who went through it and portray it, but with everything combined, it just kind of seems like a fetish. But at this point of the video, if you think that this is all very crazy and it's just opening your eyes to what kind of person Melanie Martinez is, you are not ready what I'm about to say next. The main controversy to Melanie Martinez's name happened in 2017 when she was exposed for allegedly harassing her best friend. Timothy Hiller was Melanie Martinez's best friend for a very long time. There's a lot of pictures of them together, and one day on Twitter, Timothy Hiller came up with a statement for the Me Too movement on social media, which focused on victims of sexual assault speaking up about their experience. And what he shared in those tweets is absolutely insane, and I will show you them and I will summarize them.
Her first statement, Timothy expresses disbelief in the situation which took place, being betrayed by her best friend that she still loved. Timothy mentions that there had been a power dynamic at the time of the situation because Melanie helped Timothy at her rock bottom by taking her in, so she had more power and control over Timothy because of this situation. She said that the consequences of the action that took place caused a panic attack for which she had to apologize to Melanie because it ruined her mood, and allegedly similar instances of Melanie disrespecting Timothy's feelings have occurred multiple times. Timothy continued her statement by saying that as her friendship with Melanie grew, she had a hard time saying no to her. Then, one night at a sleepover, things got too far when Melanie started asking Timothy inappropriate and personal questions about her experience with intimacy, which Timothy was not ready to discuss since she had already been S8 prior to this incident. But because they were best friends, she tried her best to answer those questions. Timothy states that she had a boyfriend at the time, and allegedly Melanie kept insisting on getting intimate with her despite this fact. She states that she was exhausted and just wanted to sleep, but Melanie kept bothering her with the same questions. Timothy states that this would only escalate more when allegedly Melanie convinced Timothy to smoke with her, and in this state of mind, Melanie's questions would only keep going while Timothy said no repeatedly and refused to commit to an act with Melanie. At some point, Timothy gave up, and allegedly Melanie started performing inappropriate contact on Timothy. Timothy continues her statement by saying that during the whole incident, she made it clear to Melanie that she did not consent to any acts. She finishes the statement by saying that their friendship ended and that she is terrified of the response that this confession is going to get. As the allegation was posted, it was never mentioned that the person Timothy was talking about was Melanie Martinez until Timothy briefly added it in the end.
There was a lot of discourse whether those allegations are true or not. Ultimately, Melanie Martinez fans became absolutely uncontrollable and started bullying Timothy off every social media, saying that she's a liar, even going as far as faking screenshots of Timothy allegedly saying that she lied because she wanted clout. Even though those screenshots looked poorly edited and were obviously fake, it still served as like the solid proof of evidence. Eventually, this discourse gained a lot of attention, enough for Melanie to speak up, and all she did is tweet 2 posts. In one of the posts, Melanie admitted that such situation described by Timothy actually happened, and she said that allegedly Timothy never said no to what we chose to do together, which is such a shady statement because there's so many other ways people can express that they don't consent to anything other than saying no. But despite this official confirmation from Melanie Martinez that such situation literally happened, fans started bullying and harassing Timothy, still calling her a liar, absolutely shaming her on every single social media, even going as far as hacking her and ruining so many opportunities for her just because she spoke up. Melanie said not a single word about fans bullying Timothy. She never did anything to prevent it, and instead she posted another tweet thanking her fans for exposing false information provided by Timothy Heller. So she literally confirmed that this thing did in fact happen in one tweet and then denied it and supported the theory that Timothy lied about it in another tweet. Interesting. Eventually, she literally made a song about the situation called Piggyback that contains lyrics like, "You are lying your way to try to gain a piece of me when you could never come close cause I know my destiny. I worked hard for my shit, put my love in this shit. You're trying to kill my name for some fame. What is this? Was a good friend and you used it to your advantage." This song further pushed the narrative that Timothy is just a liar, is a betrayer, is an absolute terrible human being who just wanted clout. Those fans, apart from faking all the screenshots and doing all of this stuff and bullying Timothy, they even said and asked Timothy, why didn't you enjoy it that Melanie literally assaulted you? Why are you complaining? You should be happy. To a literal victim of sexual assault. Even to this day, they keep saying it. The whole situation was left alone like this until 2024. In 2024, Timothy came up with a long TikTok with entire explanation of her side, of everything that didn't match up, of every single lie that was spread about her. She came up with proof, with screenshots, with everything. She spoke up for the very first time in years. Here is what she said.
"Speaking out against my abuser ruined my life, and I'd like to talk to you about it. I'm gonna be reading something I wrote. It's not particularly well written, but I just needed to collect my thoughts. Whether you know who I am or not, I ask you to please listen to my story. If you do recognize me, then you haven't heard from me in a couple of years, and that's because I was effectively run off the internet. You also may have heard that I admitted to lying or that it was proven that I lied. Neither are true. Speaking out against my abuser ruined my life. Here's how we got to that point. During the Me Too movement, I chose to speak out against a former friend who had essayed me. I was young, naive, and could never imagine how this would end up affecting my life. I believed that as long as I told the truth, things would turn out all right. I was very wrong. After my initial statement, describing in detail what happened, my abuser issued a statement in response. She used the sentence, "She never said no to what we chose to do together." While I did say no, in many different ways, this sentence was actually quite validating for me to hear. She clearly didn't understand how consent works, and she admitted that something took place between us. I wish it ended there. I made the mistake of doing an interview with Daily Mail. While being interviewed, they asked for more specific details, like when the incident took place. It'd been around 2 years prior, so I didn't remember the exact date. What I did remember was a picture I took the next day. I went back in my camera roll, found the picture, and told them the day of the incident was the day before. Unfortunately, I was wrong. The picture in my camera roll appeared multiple times. I can't explain why. When the interview came out, her fans went back in her posts to that date to find that we were in different states. If you've never heard my story before, you might at this point wonder, why would that matter? She admitted something between you took place in her statement. I agree, and this is just one of the parts that drives me crazy. After this discovery, she released a second statement, in which she thanks her fans for researching the timeline and analyzing past Instagram posts which reveal my false statements. Unfortunately, this was enough for 99% of her fans to take what she said as truth and deem me a liar. The complete contradiction of her statements meant nothing. The events after this are so much and so overwhelming it's hard for me to recount. She ended up releasing essentially a diss track about me, with lyrics perpetuating the idea that I lied about all of this for fame. I was a small musician at the time, and after speaking out, gained tens of thousands of followers. While there were some supporters, the majority of the followers were people who actively hated me. I suddenly had thousands of hate accounts dedicated to me, thousands of dislikes and negative comments on all of my music, and completely ridiculous fabricated stories of me being posted online. I really hoped it would die out and people who liked me would stick around and I'd be able to move on with my career, but it never died. Anything I attempted to do was infected with this story. Googling me results in many first-page results calling me a liar. The people who hated me took it upon themselves to ruin every opportunity for me. Partnerships with brands, modeling opportunities, they were all flooded with comments saying I lied about SA. In addition to this, my home address, phone number, and family's phone numbers were all leaked. I became so discouraged with my own music career, I essentially stopped. I started doing SW in an attempt to regain some autonomy, but that was taken from me as well when people who hated me hacked the account. I was just trying to move on. My adult content was being spread and mocked by the people who hated me. Every single one of my social media accounts was hacked, including my email. The only thing they didn't get into was my bank account. I was given the classic fuck the haters advice, but until you're bombarded with the amount that I had to endure, you really can't imagine how it would affect you. It was just so much louder than any amount of support I was receiving. As you can imagine, my mental health was and is majorly affected by this situation. And while I wish I was the type of person with the confidence to say fuck the haters and stick it out, I'm just not. I'm sensitive and not self-confident and never have been. And this made it so much worse. It got to the point where I could no longer put up with the abuse. Holding onto this public image was no longer worth the pain, and I deactivated all of my public accounts. In doing this, I also saw this as completely giving up on being a musician. I couldn't put myself through the public scrutiny anymore. So that's where I've been the past couple of years, in private. It was a huge relief to no longer be bombarded with the amount of hate I was receiving every day, but now I'm stuck with the after effects. I imagine every day the life that I could have lived if this all hadn't happened. Would I be the musician I always wanted to be? It's kept me in a complete freeze state. I won't go into too much detail about how much I've been suffering the past couple of years. Frankly, it's embarrassing. I wish I could move on. But I've never wanted things to be over more than I have now. I've been in partial hospitalization programs and attempted to regain any semblance of confidence and hope for my life, but I can't shake that this is the wrong timeline for me. I didn't do anything wrong. I spoke the truth. If you're familiar with my story, you may have also heard that I admitted to lying, and I can assure you that never happened. There were photoshopped images spread around of a confession that never happened because I have nothing to confess. I never lied. You may have also heard that I accused other celebrities of this, which I can promise you never happened either. There's so many other terrible things that people have made up about me that I'm not going to dissect and defend right now. But I was successfully gaslit into thinking I was a bad person who deserved this. I'm so scared to speak out about this again. There's a high possibility that I won't receive any support from this, and people who hate me will target me again, and I go back into hiding. I ask that if you are someone who is under the impression that I lied about this, to please hear me out. Please think about her contradicting statements. Please realize that there's no one on earth who knows what happened that night besides me and her. And even the smallest possibility that I could be telling the truth should be enough for you to not want to risk ruining an innocent person's life in this way. I'm completely exhausted from begging people to believe me for years now. I'm not sure what I'm hoping will come from this. It's gotten to be quite humiliating to beg people to care. But if you haven't heard my story before, thank you for hearing me, and I could really use your help in rewriting the false narrative of who I am and what happened to me.
It is very important for the internet to finally understand that regardless whether this allegation is true or not, it was absolutely wild to just bully someone of every single platform, take away every single opportunity just because they spoke up about it. She was literally silenced by people online. The impact this video had on masses is absolutely undescribable. During this discourse, I was like a really young kid. I did not understand the impact of the situation. I did not understand all the seriousness. I personally, as an ex-fan of Melanie Martinez, found myself believing in so many lies. And looking back, it was literally promoted to hate Timothy Heller in the fandom heavily. Nobody ever gave her a chance. And after those videos, multiple Melanie Martinez fans, they ultimately switched up and realized the mistakes they did. And so we, as an ex-Melanie Martinez fans, and still Melanie Martinez fans, we just all sat there anxiously, waiting for Melanie Martinez's response. Maybe a little bit of a follow-up, a little bit of a clear-up, her own perspective. Maybe, just maybe, a better statement other than those ancient tweets. If you go back in time to that year and specifically that month where the situation was escalating, you can see that all comments on Melanie's posts were only related to this topic and literally begging Melanie to speak up on this situation. But all that we heard from Melanie Martinez was silence to this day. By the way, I also have an elaborate video from that time as the situation was unfolding that I highly recommend watching if you want to know both sides of the story and everything that got proved. So please watch it if you want to learn more. Now, I have to tell you something important. There is no way for us to find out what happened that day and that night because everything that happened is strictly between Timothy and Melanie. There is no way for us to know whether it was true or not, especially because Melanie Martinez decided to not speak up about this anymore. We will never know if anything both of them said was 100% true. But you have to still understand that you cannot just bully Timothy Heller off every single platform and just dismiss all her claims and live your life absolutely ignorant. And don't try to say something like, oh wow, if this was really true, Timothy should have gone to court and sue Melanie. Timothy is not a multi-millionaire musician with a successful career living in a mansion. Timothy Heller is just a normal person. Obviously, court cases are expensive and you need a lot of money to do that. Why don't Melanie Martinez sue Timothy Heller for that cause? Courts 90% of time don't take cases of assault seriously, especially if it's about two grown women without any biological proof whatsoever. Of course, that case will not even be considered. Also, regardless whether you think this allegation is true or not, can we please remember that this situation is not a joke and cannot be treated like a joke. You cannot just forget about it. The least you can do is just listen. And you know, with all those years of controversy, it is definitely so disappointing for many fans to find out that an artist that literally saved their life is a horrible person. I admit, Melanie Martinez is truly a unique artist that cannot be replaced. She made so many great songs, which is exactly why people love her. And I understand how hard it is to just let go of an artist that you admire a lot and that shaped you as an individual. I would know. I literally grew up on Melanie Martinez. Even if you're still a fan, you have to accept that Melanie Martinez is not a perfect person. And things that she did are being reasonably called out. And you just have to look at those situations without pink colored glasses. You have to take them off, forget that you like Melanie Martinez, and look at it with a fresh new perspective. And I don't care whether you still support Melanie Martinez or not. I just want to say thank you for watching this video if you've been a fan or you are still a fan, and educating yourself about all those things, because it is now up to you to make your stance. Again, that's just my opinion. If you have a different one, you can always express it in my comment section. And if you just want to say something, you can always do that in my comment section. I will please ask you to subscribe to my channel and my other social media that are linked in description. And I will also ask you to like this video or not. I don't really care. And now, bye!